Someone please tell me why the very first scene in this show has Sam teaming up with the people Steve spent years of his life opposing. Sam went back to the military? Don't get me wrong, this could have been interesting commentary, especially in a political thriller, but this is just presented completely without question. And then that same episode literally becomes about how Sam can't trust the government, and still this scene is presented completely without question. How can you make a show about a government being evil and betraying someone and not address the fact that that someone works for the military arm of that government? Overall though, Sam's arc in Falcon and the Winter Soldier is about growing into the Captain America role, a role that's not defined by your muscles or your race, but by your ability to bring people together and have them trust you as a leader. Sam is at his best when he's talking Karli into reevaluating her life choices and inspiring the world with moving monologue. Yes, that scene is cringe, but it does wonders for Sam's character and firmly establishes him as a new symbol that the people of the world can get behind. Unfortunately, the show has such a convoluted plot that this thread gets lost for multiple episodes at a time, only rearing its head in small bursts. We're sort of supposed to infer that Sam learns what it means to be Captain America through his relationships to Bucky, John, Zemo, Isaiah, and Karli, but to be honest, most of the actual time spent with his character over the course of the 6 episodes is not really about that at all. For every one interesting scene, there seems to be 3 boring ones, where characters spout exposition or fight for vague reasons. And because of that wasted time, Sam has to level up into Captain America with a literal training montage right before the finale. Also, while being Cap isn't defined by your muscles, they are important, and him losing to a guy in the finale that Cap beat in his opening scene is pretty weak. If you're going to give him a new suit and new tech, you have to show how that makes up for his lack of super strength. At least have them tie. Bucky is easily the most offensive character in this show. The show sets up an unbelievably moving premise for him in episode 1. A man who is so haunted by his actions that guilt has driven him to make friends with the father of the innocent man he killed. A friendship that's all the more powerful when you realize that Bucky is an old man too. This had the potential to be the most heartrending plot thread in all of Phase 4. After episode 1, this thread gets basically no meaningful development until right before the finale, where Sam teaches him in literally 56 seconds that redemption is not about him, but about the people that he hurt. And then they tack on one conversation that lasts 35 seconds with Yori at the very end of the show. This show got 6 hours. Why does most of their development happen right before the finale? I feel like I'm back in undergrad, turning in my character development homework at midnight, 5 minutes before it's due. Bucky gets one other standout moment in the show with a flashback where Io breaks his brain control. Sebastian Stan's acting brings me to tears every time I watch this scene. But unfortunately, it's undercut by Bucky returning the favor by throwing the entire country of Wakanda under a bus. He releases their Osama bin Laden from prison because checks notes he might have some information about the people they're looking for. We were so eager to get Zemo into the action that we made Bucky look like a total asshole. And on that note, why is Bucky so weak? This man is the ultimate killing machine, and he's going toe-to-toe with these schmucks? I don't care who takes a super soldier serum. Have them train as an assassin for 7 decades and then come talk to me. And don't give me that crap about him not being able to fight as well just because he's Bucky, not the Winter Soldier. If the show actually delved into that explanation would be the perfect way to explore his grief and move along his forgotten character arc. But they don't do that. Here, we have the worst of both worlds. Bucky is way weaker, meaning the action is worse, and they don't even use that to drive his character's journey. 2014's The Winter Soldier feels like a dark world where being good and sticking to your virtues can never survive, which is why it's genius to use as the backdrop to play with virtuous characters like Steve and, at the time, Sharon. I will never forget when that young, nerdy, average Joe at the computer stood against Brock Rumlow in the face of death, and Sharon showed up to his defense saying, "Captain's orders." She's the perfect partner for Steve, although not romantically, that was weird. Always willing to break the law to do what she thinks is right, and always encouraging him to do the same. Which is why having her character do a complete 180 off screen and become a cynical, villainous mafia boss is crazy. It is exactly the kind of choice that one makes when they want their plot to go a certain way without respecting what made these characters interesting. Of course, she could have a change of heart, but it would have to be done with care and for a compelling reason. What is that reason exactly? Because Steve Rogers, paragon of virtue, forgot about his good friend and partner, niece of the love of his life, the person who convinced him not to sign the Sokovia Accords, someone who lost everything she had in life to help him? He didn't think to get her a pardon with everyone else before going off to fondue with her aunt? Sam? Bucky? No one? Why are we rooting for these guys again? Good thing we're not going to see our beloved characters make horrible life-altering mistakes off-screen in Phase 5, right? Walker starts off so great because he represents the only result you could possibly have when you allow the US government to choose Captain America. As he and Lamar remind us, they got their medals and awards not because they were willing to question those in power, but because they were willing to serve those in power without question.
3 badges of excellence to make sure I never forget the worst day of my life.
That's both why he was chosen and why he could never be Captain America. He didn't lose the title because he killed someone. He lost the title because he got caught, and he knows it. Which is why Walker's
I am Captain America
is perfect. He is their Captain America because they chose him, whether they accept it or not. And this ominous delivery serves as the perfect turning point for him after a season of slowly losing his mind as he tries to step into a role that is the opposite of everything his training had taught him thus far. He's been made a stooge, and after 5 episodes of trying to fit a square into a circular hole, he's ready to go crazy. He's been set up as the perfect villain with compelling motivations, and he's one of the only parts of this entire political thriller TV show that represents an actual poignant political message. He is the perfect foil to Sam. And then he immediately has a change of heart, complete with him quipping it up with Bucky. Not only is this totally unearned, as he just beat a fleeing man to death like 72 hours ago, but it's also the infinitely less interesting choice, robbing us of one of the few actually compelling villains in this whole franchise, and also of a real long-term redemption arc that he could still go through. The Flag Smashers started by raising important questions like, is robbing a bank really that bad? And what are the long-term consequences of the governments of the world throwing people aside for short-term benefit? And then, of course, they start killing innocents. But to be honest, even before that, they had no coherent message or ideology. Karli feels like a caricature of a young radical, just kind of yelling vague slogans and using social justice-esque language. If you want to actually represent young radicals, you kind of have to go deeper than that. And I guess that's the point, because she is, as Falcon calls her,
or a misguided teenager.
I mean, you can go that route, but if you do, don't expect me to care anything at all about her character. Val is perfect. I love her. But so far, she narratively only exists to serve other characters and plotlines, which is fine, but I shudder at what will happen when she's the one in the spotlight. I would ask Marvel not to let me down, but at this point, it is inevitable. Isaiah Bradley is great in concept, but just okay in practice. His character arc is about being treated badly by America, rejecting the idea of a black man being Captain America because of this, learning to accept that Sam is redefining what the role means, and finally being honored by his recognition in the Captain America Museum. And on paper, that sounds fine, but in practice, his whole appearance is clearly more about making a political statement than anything else, and that would be fine, but here, it's just too preachy in form, yet uninspired in content to be anything more than surface-level political commentary. Isaiah's justification for opposing Sam being Captain America is very much the Twitter soundbite version of this conversation, referencing broad, popular concepts, but without actually digging into what those criticisms mean. Disney tackles political commentary because they're trying to win internet points. I'd rather them just not. It makes me think about the anti-Semitism and the child labor and the whole ruining artistic freedom thing. You don't talk about how you're evil, I pretend I don't know you're evil. It works, Disney, at least for a few hours at a time. Don't ruin a good thing here. Okay, so for the next few, I have to warn you that while I have complaints about the projects overall, I must admit that the character work is not bad. So yeah, the title is kind of a lie. But after these, we get into the ones that really bother me, so stick with me here. Despite my misgivings at how sloppily they treated the rest of the characters when shoehorning Zemo into this show, I can't really be mad about his character. He has one belief: superhumans are too powerful to live unchecked. And every action he makes in the show is in service of this. This culminates in a high-tension scene where we get to see what he actually does when he has access to super soldier serum, and he actually destroys the serum. He's not changed, but he is forced to make a choice to define who he is, and he makes it. It's simple, and I would have liked to see him do more, but I guess it works for the role he's playing in this show.